topic, the data collection method in the qualitative research that I am going to deal over here. So let me go with my presentation. Yeah. Okay. Is it visible, ma'am?
Sir, actually it is not visible, sir.
Okay. Dr. Sakia, ma'am, and all the experts from the different parts of the world, and the delegates and the participants, I want to welcome you in this webinar. Yes, today's presentation is very unique. We have already discussed about it. Today we are going to deal about the quantitative data collection methods. Okay, let me do my business. Before dealing with the quantitative data collection methods, let's first know what is data collection and what are datas. Only then we can go forward. Okay, before we define the collection, it is essential to ask the questions. What are datas? The average answer is data is a various kinds of information. Actually, they are formatted in a particular way. Therefore, data collection is the process of gathering, measuring, and analyzing research problems, answers questions, evaluate outcomes, and forecast trends and the probabilities. If we say about the collection of the data, our society is highly dependent on data, which underscores the importance of the collecting it. Actually, accurate data collection is necessary to make informed business decisions also, and ensure quality assurance and the keep research integrity. Quality data are very necessary. And we know during data collection, the researchers must identify the data type, which type of data should be collected to make expected outcomes of his research. Then he try to find out the sources of data and the methods of the data being used. Then we'll soon see that all are many different data collection methods in our presentation today. There is heavy reliance the data collection in source, commercial, and government fields. Let's talk about the qualitative data first. Only then we go what are the tools and the methods to collect the qualitative data. Actually, qualitative data is descriptive and it expresses in the terms of feeling rather than the numerical values. Qualitative data analysis cannot be counted or measured because it describes the data. It refers the words or labels used to describe certain characteristics or features. This type of data answers the question of why, where, and how behind the analysis. It is often used to conduct open-ended studies and allowing those partaking the shows their true feelings and actions without directions. Now, let's see the advantages of the qualitative data, why the researchers try to collect the qualitative data and why he wants to have qualitative research. To answer these questions, let's get some of the advantages and the importances of qualitative data. These are given in this slide. Actually, qualitative data becomes possible to understand the attitudes. That is why the researchers always try to use this type of data in a qualitative research. And we know that it is a content generator. Always qualitative data is content generator. Subject matters generator also. It saves money because it is easy and it can be collected in a short period of time. That is why it is cheap, not expensive. It can provide insight that are specific to an industry. Similarly, qualitative data allows creativity to be driving force to the researchers. Qualitative data is a process that always open-ended, not a closed-ended, where the respondent can express his attitudes, his feelings, and his interest and ability. And at last, we can say it is incorporates the human experiences. Let's try to find out some of the examples of the qualitative data. What it look like. There are some examples. From these examples, we can know about the qualitative data much more. The hair colors of the players on a football team. This is a qualitative data because numerical expression is not given here. Similarly, the color of the cars in a parking lot. This is also qualitative data. The latest grades of the students in a classroom. This is also qualitative data because here we don't know how many students have what type of letter grade, in what number, in what percentage. This is not clear over here. Similarly, the types of coins in a jar. This is also qualitative data because numerical expression is not given here. The shape of the candies in a variety pack. This is this is also information related to qualitative data. If we talk about all these examples, so long as a particular numbers is not assigned to any of these descriptions, that is why they all are qualitative data. Now, this is my today's business, data collection in qualitative research, and outline of presentation. Today, I am going to deal with you about the different methods, different tools that are useful to collect the data for the qualitative research. And these data are known as the qualitative data. We can use interview, focus group discussion, observation, collection of materials, open-ended questions, close-ended questions, then participatory ruler appraisal, rapid ruler appraisal, survey method, case study method, memo motion method, process analysis, and experimental method. These are some of the techniques and some of the tools that collect the qualitative data. Okay, let's begin from the interview. An interview is essentially a structured conversation where one participant asks questions and other provides answers. It is just like a form of question and answers. It is like a classroom activities where the teachers are teaching and ask the question to the students and the students answer. This is also a type of interview. And interviews almost always involve spoken conversation between two or more parties. In interview, there must be at least two parties. One is the interviewer and another is the interviewees. In some instance, a conversation can happen between two persons who type their question and answer. And there are different types of interviews. Previously, Dr. Pratisha Sakia also mentioned some of the types of the interview. There are different types of interviews. Among them, I have created here only 20 types of interviews. They are traditional interview, panel interview, group interview, phone interview, video interview, restaurant of site interview, states interview, case interview, job fair interview, and the on-the-job interview. And similarly, behavioral interview, competency-based interview, final interview, an informal interview, informational interview, mock interview, on-the-spot interview, second interview, structure interview, unstructured interview, and there are other types of interview also, but we are dealing with these type of interviews in my presentation. If we talk about the traditional interview is taken when you and one another person meet, discuss your candidatures. Typically, this person is the manager, supervisor, or the chairman of your company. Sometimes the owner of the business also. For a traditional interview, you meet the interviewer at the business and have an interview with their office or conference room also. This is a traditional interview, which have been just generating from the past times. Similarly, there is another type of interview, that is the panel interview. In a panel interview, multiple people interview the interviewee at once. The position of the interviewee have an impact on multiple people's job. So they will give their input as to how they see the candidate manner and the behavior. When answering its questions, they ask the interviewee direct his answer to the persons who asked it, while still trying to make eye contact with all the interviewers. Try to learn the position to each interviewer beforehand, so the interviewee knows where to direct specify the questions. Now there is another type of interview, that is a group interview. This is the style of interview. The company will interview multiple people at once, many people at once in a group, 2 or more than 2 at a time. Though you may feel competitive in a group interview, always be polite and friendly to the other candidates. Provides answers that will help you stand as the candidate. Listen to what the other candidates say before you, so that you can think of unique response when it is your turn to answer, so that you will be fitted for the job or the expected answers. Then another type of interview is the phone interview, and it is also known as the telephone interview also. A phone interview is often used by hiring managers or the recruits the screens of pool candidates. During this interview, they may ask you to tell them a little about yourselves, then ask you questions about why you applied for the job. If they find that you are qualitative candidates for the role, they will likely ask to come to the business for a traditional interview. If you are applying of remote positions, phone or interview could also serve a formal interview. When interview is on the phone, find a quiet location free of noise and distractions, because that will be easy for you to understand the question asked from a far distance. And another type of interview is the video interview. It is just a modern type of interview. It is a remote employees tends to use teleconferencing of the video interview when hiring for their positions. Treat your teleconferencing review like a traditional interview by preparing the common review questions beforehand. Also, dress professionally like you would for an in-person interview, because your dress up is also the must, because the person who is taking an interview is watching and observing your dress up also. Similarly, there is another type of interview that is a very unique type of interview. This is known as the restaurant or off-site interview. In some cases, the employer may invite you talk over a meal or a coffee. They may also invite other managers and colleagues to this kind of interview, and the process of the interview or the question answers is finished in a cafe or the tea shop. Similarly, there is another type of interview. This is a stress interview. This type of interview is not commonly taken place, and rarely this type of interview is done. If we talk about the stress interview, this is one of the least likely interview we'll encounter in our life. Employers feeling a high stress position may use the stress interview tactic in a stress interview. The interviewer will ask the interview with the unusual questions also. That question is not expected by him. This type of question also asked in the interview. And this is this type of question make the interviewer in stress. That is why it is known as a stress interview. And another type of interview is the case interview. During a case interview, the interviewer asks the interviewees to analyze and solve a challenging business situation also. Many of the cases, they present the best of real life situations, often having occurred of company. Technology and financial and consulting industry may use to case interview to see how you problem solve the situations that you experience at your work. During case interview, thoroughly read all the instructions and they give you to ensure that you can correctly solve the case. Then after, the interviewer think that you will be the fit for the position also. And another type of interview is the job fair interview. Job fair interview, in this interview, companies send uh, super tentative and the recruits to the job, fair talk attendees about their company and open positions also. When talking to attendees, they also collect a resume that they can view later and print. They can print many copies of resume before the job fair, so you can pass them out of the company's interest. Another type of interview is on the job interview. On the job interview, test the skills of the interviewer directly related to the job in questions. During this type of interview, the interviewer may ask the interviewees actually complete real job tasks. For example, if you are applying in a writing job, they may ask to write a brief article based on the information they give you. And this is very practical also. Now, another type of interview is the structure interview. And on structure interview, we begin from the bottom here. And on structure interview is when a questions in interviewer asks, you change based on your responses. They may have a few questions prepared ahead of time, before the time, but then think more questions during the interview. This type of interview tends to be more fluid and causal. Though this may seem less intimidating than traditional interview, still treat it seriously and remain professional. Another type of interview is the structure interview. Structure interview just opposite of the unstructured interview. A structure interview is when interviewer asks each candidate the same questions, because in this interview, the interviewer has already prepared the questions to be asked to the interviewees. Similarly, on the top, on the expert interview, though this kind of interview is rare, it is not a common type of interview. Sometimes when you turn an application wants to interview you, you right away. This is a way that instantly and decide whether you are a good candidate of the role or not. Always read the job descriptions and think about your own qualifications before turning to the job application to prepare for this kind of interview. And the next type of interview is the second interview. Second interview is such type of interview when any one type of interview is taken the first, and the interviewer think that the second interview is also necessary for the candidate, then the second interview is taken place. Another type of interview is the informational interview. An informational interview is when you meet with someone at the careers use informational interview to learn more about their careers positions. For this kind of interview, prepare by creating a list of questions. A mock interview. It is a practice interview where you can work on your interviewing skills and receive feedback. Most of the people do mock interviews with their friends, their relatives, their seniors, their family members, mentors, and the counselors, so that they can prepare the interview to be done while necessary. Now, final interview. A final interview is the last step of the interview process. It is the final interview before a company decides to hire you. This type of interview takes place after you have successfully completed preliminary interviews. And informal interview. An informal interview is a more laid back and less structured than a typical interview. This usually takes place during the initial screening process when recruits wants to get know you a better well. This causal conversation usually takes place at a coffee shop or another less formal settings. So this is known as a informal interview. Now another type of interview is the competency-based interview. The interviewer will ask the interviewees questions that require you to discuss your skills and experience related to the before you have used them through your career. And the last type of interview, behavioral interview. A behavioral interview consists of the behavior interview questions that assess how you would act in certain situations. These kinds of questions are more complex than a simple yes or no questions, because in this type of interview, the body language is also observed by the interviewer. Now, these are some of the advantages of the interview method to collect the data. When the researchers do the interview to collect the data, there are some advantages, benefits. That is why most of the researchers try to have an interview to their respondent. You know, interview provides flexibility to the interviewers. There is not a hard and fast rules for it. There is the flexibility. The interview has a better response rate than the mail questions, and the people who cannot read and write also answer the questions, because most of the respondents are not literate also. Some of them are illiterate. And if the questionnaire is provided to the illiterate respondent, they cannot read the questions and they cannot write the answers also. But interview is the process of taking answer orally, verbally. So the illiterate respondent also answers very easily. Similarly, the interview can judge non-verbal behavior of the respondent, seeing their body language. The interviewer can decide the place of an interview in a private and a silent place, unlike the ones conducted through emails, which have the completely different environment. As a questionnaire and can judge the interview methods, there are some lackings also. Among the disadvantages, some of the disadvantages are conducting interview studies can be very costly as well as very time consuming also. Similarly, an interview can cause biases. For example, the respondent's answers can be affected by the reaction of the interviewer, race, his class, age, or physical appearance also. Similarly, interview studies provides less anonymity, which is a big concern for many respondents. This is also one of the disadvantages. There is the lack of accessibility. Respondents, unlike conducting mail around may corner of the world country. Now we are coming to focus group discussion. In the abbreviation form, in short form, GD. If we talk about the focus group discussion, it involves gathering from similar backgrounds, experience together in a discuss in a specific places. It is a form of qualitative research where questions are asked about their perceptions, attitudes, beliefs, and opinions, and interests also. For example, asking the attitude of the mother of under 2-year children regarding exclusive breastfeeding in ward number 1 in some places. This is the example of focus group discussion. When we talk about the minimum time 60 minutes and maximum time not more than 90 minutes. If the focus group discussion is shorter than 60 minutes, it is often difficult to fully explore the discussion topic that is expected to find out. Or it is longer than 90 minutes, the discussion can become unproductive also. So the minimum time must be 60 minutes and maximum time we have little or no social voices. There are some methodologies used in the focus group discussion that the researchers should care very strictly. And if we talk about the methodology of the focus group discussion, these are some of the main points. First of all, the researchers try to find the definition of the problems, in which problems he is going to gather the people and get their opinions. This must be identified. Then identification of the sample. Sample means population. What is his population and what is the number of the population? You must find out before having the focus group discussion and gathering the people. Then another thing, identification of the moderator also very necessary here. Then the most important thing is that generation of the pre-testing focus group discussion schedule. This schedule, among the schedules, these are what can be the opening questions, what can be the introductory questions, what can be the transition questions, what can be the key questions, and what can be the ending questions that must be just made before having the focus group discussion. Then at last, all things considered in a questions. That means the ideas that the researchers want to have from the group and the subject matter, these all included in the questions earlier. And the summary questions and the final questions, these are the methodology that should be considered while having focus group discussion. And there are some strategies also to have the focus group discussion. And I categorize this focus group discussion strategy into two groups. The first one is the pre-strategy and the second one is the during strategy. Pre-strategy means this is the strategy that must be completed before just organizing the people, before gathering the people and before having the discussion. And these are some points that should be considered. First, set up the venue and quite environment and equipped in advance. Before the discussion, that thing must be completed. Where is the venue? Either the office or the open areas or the private room, like this. They require the participants for focus group discussion, collect and invite them and inform them, the participants. And prepare these resources, materials should be prepared before having focus group discussion. And prepare the introduction and questions. What type of questions should be asked over there? This should be considered earlier. Then plan to arrive early. This is the most important, because if the researchers arrive early in the appropriate place, he can manage everything. He can manage, he can have a room management, a physical management, furniture management, like this. Similarly, assemble recording equipment if it is necessary. It must be checked and set up and finalized, then arrange the room properly. This is the pre-strategy of focus group discussion. Similarly, during the discussion, the researchers must have some strategies. These strategies included, first of all, the researchers have to welcome the groups, welcome the participants, welcome the respondents, and distribute their name cards he has already made in the pre-strategies. Then he have to have introduction. First, he himself introduce among the participants, and his purpose should be expressed over there. Then one by one, all the participants also introduce themselves. Then overview of the purpose of the format of a focus group discussion. Then he have to inform the consent. Then explain recording methods also necessary to be explained among the participants. Then set ground rules and the norms. There are certain rules and norms, especially ethics should be made clear over there. Otherwise, there must be some mistakes. And ensure proper, comfortable seating arrangement, that is highly necessary. Now we are coming another tools, data collection, that is observation. Observation is also an important part of tools to collect the data for qualitative research. You know, observation method is used in case where you want to avoid an error that can be result of bias during evaluation and the interpretation process. It is a way of obtaining objective data by watching up participants and recording it for analysis in a later stage. A researcher can use the observation method in a Montessori school and record behavior of the children at a young age. Are the children comfortable sharing their tiffin at a such early age will make a good study of the researchers. In this example, the researchers can observe and record the details of the objectivity. There are some advantages of observation method. These advantages are, you know, observation method provides direct access to the research phenomena. By observing firsthand, the researchers can collect, check, and record accurate data. It can generate flexibility in terms of application. Similarly, the researchers can generate permanent record of the phenomena, and researchers or others can refer it later. Similarly, the organization method is one of the simplest method, data collection. It does not require too much technical knowledge. The observation method is the best way to formulate the hypothesis. From the observation, hypothesis can be created very easily. It means the researchers can observe and come to know about the activities, perceptions, likes and dislikes from the theory of his subject, because he can observe the body language of the respondent in observation method. Similarly, observation method is one of the most common method used in all science, in every easy and follow and accept. In some of the instance, observation is only available tool to collect essential data and information, because other tools are uncommon in some cases. The observation method does not require the willingness of the participants to record. The researcher can observe from a distance and record the findings. If the respondent are unwilling to act as the researchers want, even in such case, observing them, the researchers can collect some of the information. Yes, naturally, there are some disadvantages also. And among these disadvantages, some of them are, focus several advantages because it takes a longer time frame, and compared to other data collection method, it is a long process and it is expensive also. There is a chance of higher observed bias in the observation method. Several personal behaviors are not open in the observation, and this proves limitation in case of observation method. There is a higher chance of observer influencing the behavior of the sample group's elements. Similarly, uncertainties of the event cannot determine the actual time when the event will take place. And many of the incidents are abstract like love, affection, and the researchers cannot gain exact and correct account of those because these can be filled, not compared. Their social phenomena generalization made by the observation are not considered reliable as they cannot be used for lab experiments. In some cases, it is seen that two persons observing the same phenomena came at different results because one person observed from one point of view and another person observed from another point of view. So that may be the difference. And there are another tools, that is the collection of materials. From the collection of different materials, also the information can be obtained. For example, letters, personal letters, or the family letters, or the letters provided by the industry if collected this type of letters and if go through inside the letters, some information can be got from there also. Similarly, diaries are also another part of the in information tools, because most of the people in modern time, they have a hobby of writing the diaries. And if anything is necessary to find out, and if the researchers get the diary of the some persons, and if he go through the diary, then he can get many information and collect the data. Similarly, photographs, observing different photographs taken in the different situation and the different environment and the circumstances in the different places also give some information. Similarly, collection of narratives, these also give some information, and these are also the data collection tools. Now we are coming to questionnaire. Actually, there are two types of questionnaire. One is the open-ended question, and another is a closed-ended question. Open-ended question is also known as the long answer question, and this type of question is starts with WH, like why, how, where, etc. And open-ended questions are questions that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no, and instead require a respondent to elaborate the points, and he or she has to express his views, his interest, his perceptions also. And open-ended questions help you to see things from customer perspectives as you get feedback in their own instead to stop. These are the places where we can use open-ended questions. We can use this while conducting qualitative research. We can use open-ended question during usability both in a mixed frame. Asked. Now we are coming we are talking about the close-ended question. Actually, close-ended question is like offer rice or bread for dinner instead of being asked, what would you like for dinner? Because there is no option. One is rice and another is bread. So this type of question is known as close-ended question. Now, these are the places where we can use close-ended question. While conducting qualitative research, we can use close-ended question. Similarly, conducting surveys with a large sample size, we use close-ended question. And in sometimes combination with open-ended question in a mixed format, we can use close-ended questions also. Similarly, market research, conducting market research, in this type of research, close-ended questions are used. Now, we are coming to IORAA rapid ruler appraisal. Rapid ruler appraisal, appraisal is a systematic but semi-structured approach to data acquisition when confronted with the specific problems associated with the rural areas where little is known, high cost, and are associated with data acquisition, and there is an imminent need for reliable information. And this type of tools is not commonly used. This is rarely, this type of tools is rarely used. And it is disturbed. Now, these are the features of the rapid rural appraisal. In a rapid rural appraisal, interview and question design techniques for individual, household, and the key format. Interview methods of cross-checking information from different sources. Similarly, sampling techniques that can be adapted to a particular objectives and methods of obtaining qualitative data in a short time frame. Similarly, group interview techniques, including focus group and interviewing, also can be used in the rapid rural appraisal. And method of direct observation at the site level, and another feature is use of secondary data sources. Now we are in defining of participatory rural appraisal. This is also not a common type of data collection tools. It is rarely used. In participatory rural appraisal is a family of approaches and methods to enable local people to share, enhance, and analyze their knowledge of life and conditions, to plan and to act. It is the definition given by Robert Chambers. Actually, it is a process of collecting participatory rural appraisal information is an important as the data itself. And the PRA empowers the local community to analyze its situation and to improve its decisions. And these are the features of the participatory rural appraisal. Respecting people's knowledge and learning from them, listening to the disadvantaged persons also. Do not collect data which you do not need. And there is the flexibility and visualization and tangulization also. It involves a team of people working with the community of several days. It's a time-taking process. An analysis is done in the field. And the most important step of the PRA process is handing over the stick to the people. Now, these are the differences between PRA and RRA. The differences are categorized into different forms. For example, if we talk about the purpose of the RRA is to inform project designer, gather baseline information, and monitor, evaluate. But if we talk about the purpose of the PRA, it is the capacity building, improve decisions making at a community level, situation analysis, planning seeking, situation problems, and monitoring and evaluation by community. Similarly, if we compared PRA and RRA with the team, in RRA, if we talk about the team, it is a multidisciplinary team of project staffs and specialists. But if we talk about the team of the PRA, it composed of villagers, sometimes facilitated by project staff persons that works with larger community. And if we talk about the sites of the PRA, it is limited number of the representative sites. But if we talk about the PRA, it communities where project activities will take place. Similarly, if we talk about the time period, in RRA describes discrete studies, usually listing 7 to 5 days. But if we talk about the PRA, approximately 10 days. And if we talk about the participation in the RRA, it is the active participation from top to down. But in PRA, active participation from bottom to up. And if we talk about the documentation, in PRA, in RRA, comprehensive, well-written report that captures and depth and complexity of information obtained study. But in PRA, village logbook with the notes of the principal finding activities and community action plan. Now we are coming to the case study, another type of data collection, and it is a very important type of data collection also. Case study and depth study of a one person, group, or event, or the situation. In case of study, nearly every aspect of the subject life history and analyzed to seek patterns and cause of the behavior. Case study can be used in a variety of fields, including psychology, medicine, education, anthropology, political science, and social works. The hope is that learning gained from studying one cause can be generated to many others. Unfortunately, cause study tend to be highly subjective, and it is sometimes difficult to generalize the results in a larger group. Now, advantage of the case study. Why the researchers choose these tools to collect the data? Because it allows researchers to collect the great deal of information. And case study gives researchers the chance to collect information on rare or unusual cases also. Similarly, it allows researchers to develop hypotheses that can be explored in experimental researches. Yes, there are some disadvantages to the longer population. Similarly, case study cannot demonstrate case cause and effect, and case study may not lead bias also. There are different types of case study: exploratory case studies, instrumental case studies, instructive case studies, collective case studies, explanatory case studies, descriptive case studies. These are the types of case studies. Now we are coming to survey. Survey is also an important tools to data collection. Survey collect information from targeted group of people about their opinion, their behavior, their knowledge, their perceptions, and so on. Common types of example survey are written questionnaire, face-to-face or telephone interview, focus group, and electronic mail. These are some of the types of survey methods. Yes, these are the types and categories of the survey. They are interview method, focus group discussion, panel sample surveys. These are the types of the surveys. Among these surveys, which one is beneficial to the researchers? He can select. These are the advantages of survey method. Survey methods have a highly representativeness. Surveys provide high level of general capability in respecting a large population, and it is not expensive. It is very cheap. It has a low cost. Similarly, it convenient data gathering. Very easily, data can be gathered. Significance is also advantages of survey method. And little or no observed subjectivity and precise result is the advantages of survey method. There are some disadvantages also. Among the various disadvantages, some of them are: respondents may not feel encouraged to provide accurate, honest answer. Respondents may not feel comfortable providing answers that present themselves in a unfavorable manner. Similarly, respondents may not be fully aware of their response for any given answer because of lack of money, lack of memory of the subject, and boredom. Now we are coming very interesting type of another tools, that is a memo motion study. Actually, there are two type of motion study. One is the micro motion study, and another is the memo motion study. We are dealing with only memo motion study. Memo motion or spaced shot photography is a tool of time and motion study that analyze long operation by using camera. It was developed in 1946 by Morvin A. Model and Purdue University, who was first to save field material while planning study in the kitchen work. Memo motion study. And why the researchers use this type of study? This is the objectives, and we can say the benefits of memo motion study also. Actually, to study the relationship between the activities of the operator and the machine, the researchers use memo motion study. Similarly, to keep permanent record at the most of the effective way, performing a task for the future reference, it is necessary for the researchers to use memo motion study. Similarly, to obtain motion time data for developing synthetic time standard of the various elements, it is necessary to use memo motion study. Now, this is the process analysis. This is also one of the technique to collect the data and the information. Process analysis is the action of the conducting a review of gaining and understanding of business process. It involves reviewing the components of a process, including inputs, outputs, procedures, controls, actors, applications, data, technology, and their interactions to produce results. And the benefit of the process analysis helps to identify individual process, to describe them, to visualize them, and discover the links that exist between them. And it can offer the detail as well as overall overview of the process of the company and point out their shortcoming problems. Now, this is the experimental methods of data collection. And an experimental is the data collection method where the researchers change some variables and observe their effect on other variables. In this sense, the researchers use experimental method. The variable that you manipulate are referred to the independent, while the variable that change as the result of the manipulation and dependent variables. Now, there are some advantages of experimental method. It gives researchers a high level control. It allows researchers to utilize many variations. It can lead to excellent result, and it can be used in different fields, in the different sectors. It can lead the artificial situation, and it can be affected by errors. And there are some disadvantages also. The results are highly subjective due to the possibility of human error. There is the chance to make error by the researchers while having these tools. Experimental research can create situations that are not realistic, and it sometimes can be artificial. It is the time-consuming process, takes a longer time, and expensive also. There may be ethical or practical problems while variable control at the time of research. And as I already told, it is an expensive method of data collection because it consumes a lot of time and the manpower also. So from this, I have completed my business. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, ma'am. I have completed.